In Age of Empires 2, when creating your army, the first thing you need to do is create the buildings to produce your units. At first, this topic may seem straightforward and not worthy of an entire video. However, because different civilizations have different strengths, you need to know how to best use those strengths without making yourself vulnerable. In previous videos, I've taught you the techniques for completing a deathmatch build order, but in this one, I'll tell you how to choose your build. I'm going to divide the different versions of build orders based on what unit type your civilization is strong at. Now, I know each civilization is different, and each one has a different variation of what I'm telling you about. However, this is a very good place to start. To start, cavalry civilizations with either strong paladins, camels, or elephants open with stables. If you go back to the first video in this series, you'll remember that we'll call this building type Building A. The second type of building, called Building B, will either be barracks, workshops, or archery ranges, dependent on your civilization's strengths and the current situation. If your opponent is also a cavalry civilization, make barracks as the second building, then create halberdiers. For example, the Franks and the Huns often complement their cavalry with halbs to scare away enemy paladins and camels. If your opponent is not a cavalry civilization, you may want to make workshops to create siege to destroy or to add support to your army. For example, the Teutons or Celts may create onagers and rams to push an early advantage, and the Khmer normally create heavy scorpions and rams to serve as a powerful combo with their elephants. Also, occasionally, a cavalry civilization may create archery ranges slightly before barracks in order to get a ranged support unit out quickly. This is common with the Huns and the Magyars, and maybe the Turks, all of whom have strong, heavy cavalry archers. Whatever you choose to make to complement the cavalry, be sure to attack your enemy as soon as you think you can. Cavalry have the unique potential to be a pain in the butt because they are so effective at destroying early armies and economies, and at sniping villagers. Siege civilizations, on the other hand, rarely make siege workshops as their first building, and instead use stables or barracks to get units out that can defend the siege and to offer more power in the first 5 minutes or so of the game. For example, the Ethiopians and Mongols will make stables before their workshops in order to get camels out. The Slavs and occasionally the Celts will open with barracks to train champions or halberdiers to defend their strong siege. Remember, while siege civilizations won't be able to rush the opponent, they can often push the opponent relatively soon if they have other units that can complement the siege well. Because of this, they are often very dangerous civilizations. Infantry civs, though, aren't quite as scary as the former ones. They often have strong barracks openings, but they still need to get other support units. If you're an infantry civ that has either siege onagers or heavy scorpions, you should probably make siege workshops as your second building. This opening is very common with the Goths and the Slavs. However, if you have good archer units, you may consider using them instead if you need to gain early mobile units. For example, the Japanese will oftentimes create arbalests or heavy cavalry archers before siege in order to gain map control. The same is often true for the Vikings and the Meso civilizations, even though they have various siege options. Civilizations that rely heavily on archers, though, are often defined more by their other units. If you're the Chinese, start with stables and camels. If you're the Mayans, start with barracks and eagle warriors. If you're the Mongols, start with stables and camels, and then add in siege while you're making castles. This brings me to an interesting point, which is that some archer civilizations, such as those mentioned above, often don't even make archery ranges in deathmatch because they rely on an archer unique unit from the castle. However, as I've said a couple times previously, if you're gaining an early advantage and have access to good cav archers or arbs, it's probably a good idea to make a few ranges. Now, once you've placed the foundations for your first 2 types of buildings, you should immediately follow this up with a third type. If you haven't made siege yet and aren't being pressed at home, make siege workshops. Make archery ranges if you have strong heavy cav archers and you don't have a better choice. If you are winning, you can hold off creating castles for about a minute to create a few more of the previous buildings to get more units onto the field. If you are being pressured or have a very strong unique unit though, you should probably build castles soon. Now, occasionally, if your unique unit is very important, you can even make castles as your second building. This is somewhat common with the Chinese, Mongols, Saracens, and a few others. However, if you want your first building to be a castle, you can clump. Now, clumping is an interesting opening build because you break that all-important one-tile gap between buildings rule. Instead, build several castles, workshops, and other buildings in a circle around your base, and make sure to start the foundation on all buildings before the enemy scout can reach you. This encloses your base, giving you several advantages and disadvantages. The advantage of a clump is that for somewhat slow civilizations, you still have a chance to defend. If you have good siege or unique units, you can get them out early without fear of losing them before they reach a large enough mass to defend themselves adequately. This can result in you having a stronger early army, which can do more damage than you otherwise would have. The disadvantage is that you have a lot of wasted villager time, meaning you'll be slow to create your economy, and therefore it's very possible and sometimes probable that you'll get overwhelmed. My guide to using a clump is to do so only when it's crucial to defend early raids, your opponent's civ is far stronger at rushing, you are a flank player who might get double teamed, or you have a strong unique unit plus siege combo. However, this really is up to your chosen playstyle, and if you find that you like the clump opening, go for it. And so, now you should roughly understand which units and buildings to make in the early game. Having a good understanding can only come with experience and practice, but this is a good start. However, I still have some advice I can give you concerning the fast creation of your units, which I'll go over in the next video. Be sure to subscribe and get notified when I post the next episode in the series. See you later, thanks for watching.